welcome to your forensics test review. So this is probably going to be really quick because this unit has been pretty much just memorization. So what I recommend is maybe some flashcards for this one, as opposed to the other units that we've done in chemistry, which there's like practice problems and math and looking at the periodic table. This one is more just making sure that you understand the terms and definitions for things. So, but if you have any questions, please let me know. Your test is Thursday, May 14th at 11 a.m. via Zoom, so please be sure that you show up for that. I've included the invites below this video. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So I'm not going to go through each and every detailed thing because I am filming this with the assumption that you've watched all the lecture videos, all the other YouTube videos that I have given you, and so you've been taking good notes. So I'm really just going to hit the highlights. Everything is fair game that we've talked about via lecture. I'm not going to explain definitions or anything like that, so I'm just assuming that you've already taken good notes. So what I would recommend is that you pull out your chemistry notes and you would highlight the things that I talk about specifically, because even though everything is fair game, for the test, what I talk about in this video, you definitely want to take a look at, okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So, you need to know what the definition of forensics is, and there's also several different names for forensics and forensic science, so be sure that you're familiar with those. You need to know what you have to have an undergrad in order to study forensics, or to practice forensics, rather. You need to be able to give me a couple reasons why we study forensics, especially as Christians. Some CSI terms that you need to be familiar with is biological evidence and physical evidence, so you need to be able to tell the difference between those. And if I were to give an example of, say, tire marks, you would need to be able to tell me what kind of evidence it is. You also need to know what the crime scene investigators are responsible for. And if I were to give you kind of a case study as far as, like, you are the crime scene investigator, what would be your steps in order to investigate the crime scene? You need to be able to tell me the 4 different steps that we discussed. 4 different procedures. Alright, you need to be able to tell me what a forensic expert, also known as a forensic witness, does. Where we can get DNA from was information that you were supposed to be collecting via the YouTube videos that I sent you the other week. This one specifically was on DNA. So the answers to that is going to be hair, saliva, skin, sweat, blood, mucus. So there's several places that we can get DNA from, but that video only talked about 3 of them. The other is going to be the definition of loci. Remember, we use this in order to do DNA profiling. So it's a specific area on the chromosome, a specific position on the chromosome where we find particular genes. So there's 3 different types of fingerprints, which you should know from the fingerprint dusting video that I sent you guys. There's 2 of them. Super fascinating. There's latent, patent, and plastic. So what makes up fingerprints that dusting fibers cling to? Well, if we're talking about from the first video with the latent fingerprints, that's going to be referring to the magnetic dusting fibers. So that way the fingerprints actually cling to that. Talking about the fingerprint powder that the forensic expert showed whenever they lifted the fingerprints, that was made of a titanium dioxide base. You guys know what dioxide is, right? Well, and you probably know what titanium is, but dioxide, remember, is going to be 2 oxygens, right? So there you go. And remember, microsil, which was also found in the forensic expert video when he lifted prints, is going to be the casting material that they use in order to collect the impressions. So just remember that it's a forensic casting material. Remember, the leucocrystal violet is going to be what we use in order to be able to collect prints that might have some blood samples on them. This is going to be a great way for us not only to get fingerprints, but also to get DNA samples. And then lastly, the molybdenum disulfide particles are going to be that black charcoal powder that we use in order to develop latent fingerprints, okay? And just remember that fingerprints are always easier to collect on smooth surfaces, smooth flat surfaces, rather than porous rigid surfaces. So it's going to be much easier for me to collect fingerprints from a glass table than it is going to be from, say, like a doorknob or something like that. In the example with the forensic expert, he tries to collect some off of a doorknob and also off of a golf ball. It's really interesting stuff. Be sure that you go back and watch it just so that you're familiar with what these definitions are and you can actually see them in practice. Lastly, I want to tell you guys that this test is going to be all multiple choice except for 1 question at the end, so please be sure that you study accordingly. But that just means that all of these really tricky words and stuff, you don't need to worry about as far as, molybdenum disulfide. I don't expect you to be able to spell that, but I would expect you to be able to tell me what it is out of a multiple choice selection, or to be able to, if I were to give you what it was, I would want you to be able to pick it out as the definition, or as the term, rather. All right, I hope all of that makes sense. I am wrangling this child right now. She is all over the place today, so she just wants to play, play, play. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Otherwise, I will see you guys later. Oh, it's nap time, I guess.